Welcome to Sales Velocity TV, where we pull back the curtain on how the top businesses in the world sell more with less resistance. Bringing over 50 plus years of combined sales experience and over 100 million in revenue generated, please welcome the hosts of Sales Velocity TV and two incredibly entertaining gentlemen, Andrew Cass and Aaron Parkinson.
We interrupt this program today, my friend, with a little message on a trend that's developing that I think as business owners could affect us very negatively if we let it take hold in the years ahead. And that is the selling of big government socialism to we the people. But since you're business owners and entrepreneurs and sales professionals watching this, we want to really alert you to how this will ultimately affect you and your business, but naturally that will spill into personal liberties as well, Aaron. So veering off path a little bit right here, but conscious of making sure we tie this back to why you watch the show, which is how can I make more money, more profit, have more freedom, have more lifestyle freedom and more control. And I think you're going to find that there's going to be some really insightful information we're going to share with you here today that very few talk about, that very few frankly know about, because there's a pretty aggressive, tactful effort on keeping this information buried from the public, and it is just as ruthless as it gets. And how you doing, man?
I know that you're super excited today. This is like you've been excited about this all week. This is like your Super Bowl.
I don't know that I got to tell you, I don't know that I'm excited about. Maybe I'm excited to get on our show and share it and talk about it because I know the importance of what it means long term for all of us. Republican, Democrat, doesn't make a difference. But I'm not really excited about what's happening, and that's so. I guess it's a two-way street right here.
Yeah, and I think that it's important to set the tone for the show today. If you understand anything about economics, the stronger the middle class, specifically small business sector, is, the more affluent and prosperous and powerful a country is. And so this is a show about sales, but sales is really about revenue. Revenue is about profit. Profit is about the success of your business. And right now there is a strategic, borderline malicious
movement
attack happening on the business owners in specifically Canada and the United States. And the timing is important right now. And the reason why we're going to address some of these topics today is because, fortunately, we were born in countries that have a democracy, which means we, the people, get to choose who are in power and who are going to serve the people at the highest level. And right now, we have some pretty shocking examples of how the people are not being served. It's more of a popularity contest happening right now than actually serving the people. And it's important to bring these things to light because if we don't push back against these things, we won't have profitable businesses to run. And the cascading effect is we will not have a strong, stable economy.
Perfectly said, man. That's why you're an amazing co-host. But hey, listen, to piggyback off that, couple disclaimers. So Aaron and I, if you've watched our show for a long time, are independents. He's from Canada. I'm from the US. We're independents, which means at the end of the day, we'll pretty much vote. My opinion is I'll vote for whoever's doing the least amount of damage because politics and media, to me, are the lesser of two evils. And I think you agree with that, right? There's no perfect party. I've for years would just... It's like a dream for me that will never happen is I've always wanted a third party to surface here in the U.S. The independent party is just too vague. It's never taken off. It's never gotten the fun. But there's been a pivotal movement this week, which we'll talk about, that maybe opens the door for the first time in a long time. I'm excited about it. But we're independents. I personally didn't even vote in the last election, didn't vote for Trump, didn't vote for Biden. Aaron, you're a Canadian by nature. So what's going on with Trudeau up there is totalitarianism at its finest. And if anybody doesn't see that, which really is an extension of socialism, you've lived that, you have examples of that. That's taken hold pretty good up there. I can't comment on it like you can, but I know there's some resistance also because there's a lot of entrepreneurial, free-thinking, liberty-minded people up there. And I know
Well,
that's
yeah, and
something
I
you'll
actually
talk
have
about.
I actually have the extra layer of perspective because I grew up in Canada, but I've lived almost exclusively in the Cayman Islands
Mm-hmm.
for the last 20 years, which has significantly less government overreach than either of those countries.
That's right.
And it's one of the most prosperous countries in the world because of it.
Exactly right. That's right. So the big news this week, though, we'll set the stage. We're going to include a lot of cool resources in the show notes, by the way. Whenever you watch the recording of this will be up, usually about a week later, a couple of days later, is one of my favorite political, I guess I could call her a politician, congresswoman, but one of my favorite people, one of my favorite woman in politics for a long time now is Tulsi Gabbard. She's out of Hawaii. She's a former veteran. She ran for president on the Democrat ticket against Biden in 2020. And she did pretty well. There was a stage of about 16 or 17 of these. She's the sharpest woman I've ever met. Now, she's basically said this week, I can't associate myself with the current Democrat Party anymore because the Democrat Party anymore. And this is important. Don't get offended if you're a Democrat. We don't care. We just want what's best for business, humanity, freedom, less regulation, right? Is she's identified the facts that it is no longer a Democrat Party. It's essentially a socialist regime now, cloaked as a Democrat Party. So she left and walked away. Why is that important? Not to take cracks at Democrats or socialists, but we'll take cracks at socialism, is because she's an independent now. And I think nobody's had as much influence as she has had in a long time in politics. And could she possibly get that third party movement, that swell? I think more than ever, Americans are receptive to it. Could she possibly be the person that gets that third party moving? Because right now she's identified herself as an independent, but she did admit in the podcast, and we're going to include the phenomenal 2-hour interview she did with Joe Rogan. That'll be in the show notes, where she really just dissects the psychology behind what's going on in that party. You're not going to get it. You're not going to get it from anyone better than her. Who she was part of the DNC. She's been part of the party. She ran for president, so she's seen a lot more, and she's been in the military, so she's seen it all from top down. But could she be the answer to maybe having a third party swell opening here in the U.S.? Probably not anytime soon because the money isn't there. So she's going to probably have to. And again, we as business owners, you got to pick sides at times. And oftentimes, and I'm going to do a great little exercise here today. It's going to help you tremendously. It's not about always voting for what you've always voted for or what you think is the right thing. It's a lot of times voting against who's doing the least amount or who's doing the most amount of damage. And we'll talk a little bit about that here today because it all ties back to your business, and your business is your baby. And if you're not making voting decisions based on the health of your business and how it ultimately impacts your family, you're missing a lot, and it will affect you more than you think. A lot of people don't focus on these topics. So they're like, yeah, whatever, politics will take care of itself. What is my one vote going to do? A lot. A lot.
Yeah, and we've never been here before. This seems to be almost like unknown territory.
I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah.
Because if you look at the history of presidents in the United States and you look at the history of prime ministers in Canada, we weren't here under Trump. We weren't here under Obama. We weren't here under Bush. We weren't here under Clinton. We weren't here under Reagan. We
certainly weren't here under the Kennedy, JFK. I mean,
no,
it goes on.
We were not here. We are in a really weird, unknown territory.
That's right.
Right now, in both countries.
That's right. Now, I'm glad you brought that up because that's important. Now, when we say here, you could basically go back, and we're going to give perfect examples here, to the last 1 year. So we'll talk about the current administration, obviously, because when we say we've never been here, they're doing things that have never been done in American history before, and they're socialist/Marxist behaviors. And you can't argue fact. It is what it is. We'll lay out a couple examples. We'll even share meetings of it. But again, how does it tie back to your business? In two ways. If it takes hold, it will cripple you from a business regulation and a taxation standpoint, and ultimately a personal liberty standpoint. And it is as dangerous as it ever gets. Now, here's what's going on. The level of distraction that is happening from the top to keep you from noticing what we're talking about here today is ninja level. It's stealth. They're infatuated with Donald Trump. I've never seen anybody focus so much on a former president to keep eyes off what's really going on. There's no future in the past, folks. A guy who used to be president is of no relevance to the problems we need to fix today. So get over it. Let the FBI and the police investigate him and do what they need to do. but it's not 4, 5, 6 hours a night on CNN. It is completely insane. And that's really where their emphasis is going right now because it has to. So that's important to point out. So whatever side of the aisle that you're on, you got to see through the distractions to see through the truth. Tulsi's done an amazing job of this. She exposed the entire thing top down on that Joe Rogan podcast, which is down below in the show notes.
And I think it's really important to watch that Rogan podcast. And why we bring Rogan up a lot is because he just seems to be the most grounded, logical person with a major platform today, which is why his subscribers are going so much, because there are other talk shows with big platforms, but a lot of the times they're popular because they're so far left or they're so far right. So it's almost like the car wreck effect. People want to watch them because it's kind of chaos grenades going off all the time. And Rogan is bringing it right into the middle and having logical conversations. And if you haven't watched the most recent one, his most recent podcast with Tulsi, it was mind blowing. It was awesome. If you didn't watch the ones before, with the guy who sued Twitter,
or my God,
if you didn't watch the ones with the doctors, going against the vaccines, he's bringing people on that can't get on the major platforms and get access to mainstream media because they don't fit the agenda.
That's right.
So it's almost like the last bastion of open conversation.
I jokingly said this week, Aaron, oh boy, Tulsi has landed on the Joe Rogan podcast. Guess what that means? When you finally get to the Joe Rogan podcast, guess what that means? Finally, the truth surfaces when you get to Joe. It's like it all hangs out. The platform didn't get bullied or intimidated by big government to censor and cancel people that didn't meet their narrative. So it's like, I love watching the big players like Tulsi Gabbard. By the way, Alex Berenson, the guy you just mentioned, who was canceled by Twitter because he simply had vaccine concerns, was the only human being, citizen, who won a lawsuit against Twitter, overcame it, got back on, and found out that it was all the White House that colluded and pushed and bullied Twitter to censoring him. And he won that case, and he's now suing the White House. That is a black and white case. It is that's a 4-hour interview. But again, when they get to Joe, it's like, oh, now we really got the truth because we didn't get censored or pigeonholed into a 10-minute interview on Fox or a 10-minute interview on CNN. You got the 2-hour version.
Yeah. I mean, even Zuckerberg, who a lot of people aren't real fans of, being able to come out there and say, hey, we censored some stuff because the FBI told us to.
The FBI pressured us. But here, by the way, Zucker interview, again, I think I mentioned this on a previous podcast. The Zuckerberg interview was great. Not a bad guy. He takes a lot of heat, but he got bullied by the White House. That's also black and white now. That's out there. And there are 4 law firms that I know of that I study pretty well. I've donated to some of them. They're in some heavy constitutional lawsuits against the White House is got caught with their hands in the cookie jar. They're so bought and paid for by Big Pharma that they've censored, manipulated, in massage data when it came to COVID and COVID vaccines for quite some time. And different topic for a different day. But Aaron, that's control.
This is a business
control of medicine, in control of a medicine narrative, in drawing a stake between the doctor-patient relationship is textbook socialism.
Yeah, but take it a step further. Again, this is a business show.
Yeah.
How did that overreach and that agenda impact our businesses? It shut down the economy for 2 years.
You got that right.
It always comes back to the economy. It always comes back to the strength of business. And these things which you're like, it didn't really affect me. Yes, it did. It's a trickle-down effect. It's called trickle-down economics.
It absolutely did. It absolutely did. And the amount of people who lost work, the amount of people who lost income, the debt that was run up to subsidize the insane overreach of shutting an economy down for perfectly healthy people will never be forgiven or forgotten. And it was done with no data because we never knew who was really at risk and who was really sick. It was just a blanket approach to everything. And that is just, again, that looping back, those are socialist/Marxist behavior. So I want to share something right here, Aaron, before I do this little exercise, because very few people, this could never happen in America, but they've never done the work. They don't even really know where you going, buddy.
scratching my leg.
Oh, okay. Are you leaving the program?
I'm out. I'm done.
So they've never done the work. I can tell in like a 1-minute conversation with somebody that they don't even really know what socialism is. They've never read a book. They don't.
I think
know
there's
history.
some confusion around it for sure.
There can be some confusion. I'm going to share the exact meaning according to Wikipedia. I don't believe Wikipedia has actually changed the definition of it as of yet, which they could do it.
Give it a week.
Give it a week. Maybe they'll see this podcast and change the definition. They're pretty good at that. But you could ask. Listen, you and I speak to more diverse people and business owners around the world than maybe as much as anybody. People from Cuba, people from Venezuela. I mean, I have 2 people on my staff from Venezuela. Like, they get it. They understand socialism and communism really well. The Chinese get it. They understand it really well. And people are always like, nah, that could never happen right here. But there's remnants of it. There's pockets of it. So the meaning of socialism is any various theories or systems of social organization in which the means of producing and distributing goods is owned collectively or by a centralized government that often plans and controls the economy. Now, let's walk it back. If you look around at the issues today, the amount of things that this current government is getting their hands into is what you said before. Never been done before, not by Obama, not by Trump, not by Bush, not by Clinton. They never even came close. So when you look at we're talking about getting involved in things like gender and race. The border situation is out of control. And just this last week, I'll bring this up real quickly right here. Check this out, Aaron, to talk about overreach and really just getting involved in things they shouldn't be getting in. Check this out right here. This is what they did to Uber and Lyft this past week. Can you see this?
Yep.
They decided, this is what socialist regimes do and control centralized power, is they said, hey, gee, we have an idea so we can make more money, is let's decategorize Uber and Lyft drivers as contractors 1099 and make them W-2 employees. Guess who loses in that deal, Aaron? Uber and Lyft get cranked in fees they shouldn't be paying because they're clearly not employees. They don't work 9 to 5. They do 2 hours here, 3 hours here, 4 hours here, and they're 1099 contractors. And then the drivers get cranked too because they're in a way higher tax bracket, and then they have more local taxation fees and whatnot. It's a nightmare for both. But guess who wins?
Well, the tax collector.
Well, the IRS wins, right? So this is an IRS play that we've talked a little bit about.
Yeah, here. It's 100% related to we want to charge them a higher tax bracket,
right?
And again, goes back to your point. This is chipping away, right? So the average American or the average Canadian will say, well, I never drive Lyft and I never drive Uber.
So I don't have to worry about that.
So it doesn't affect me. I don't care. Well, what happens when they say, okay, now there's no such thing as a contractor? Chipping away,
good point.
chipping away. And all of a sudden we've got vendors that are doing, roofs for contractors that all of a sudden you can't be a contractor.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be employed, or more importantly, you have to pay this level of tax without having the ability to write off different things. It's chipping away. And so if you think it doesn't involve you, you're being selfish and you're not paying attention.
You're being naive is what you're being. But here's the biggie. Let's use our company Pipeline Pro as an example. So Pipeline Pro is our software platform that powers the show. We have dozens of employees, and guess where none of them reside? I don't have to tell you.
In America.
We have one player in the United States, and everybody else is a 1099 contractor in multiple parts of the world. Because of what I just showed. Because of the overreach of W-2 employment, the cost of W-2 employment, and what I just showed you with the recategorization of 1099 versus W-2. What if I had dozens of employees that were 1099 contractors, and suddenly a socialist regime says, oh, no, you can't have a 1099 contractor anymore because we're in charge. We make the rules. We control. I shared the meaning, right? And now you need to categorize them as W-2. We just get cranked. Right? Like our bottom line gets cranked, and so do they.
And it hurts the business because now the business pays more. It's harder to get people to work for you because they're paying more of their income to work for you. So now you gotta raise how much you pay everybody. So now the business is less profitable. So now the business is unstable. So the business has less opportunity to employ people. It has to pay more taxes. All of a sudden the business goes under. Now this engine for growth and revenue is killed. It's step by step by step by step. And for me, the one of the examples that really resonates with me is growing up in Canada, we have universal healthcare, right? You can walk in to any hospital, costs you nothing, and the theory sounds amazing, especially from an empathetic standpoint. Like if somebody can't afford healthcare, we want to support them. Nobody should be without healthcare. It makes sense in theory. The problem is when you give the control over to the government to run, governments aren't responsible for things like profit, efficiency, competition, all the things that we have to deal with that make us run businesses better. They're not held to those same standards. So now what's happened for example, in Canada, is the doctors are capped on how much they can make. So now what they're doing is per patient, they're trying to jam as many patients as they can through in a day because they're capped on what they can make per patient. So now the actual advice and care that is given is vastly diminished. They're exhausted. They're capped on their income. So do you know what they're doing right now, Andrew? They're all leaving. They're all leaving. There are cities all over Canada right now that literally can't find a doctor to work there.
I get it.
So now you don't even have a healthcare system because it's being run so inefficiently. One of my cousins just came down with something that's creating epileptic seizures, and she can't go and get an MRI unless her GP prescribes her the opportunity to go get an MRI in the system. Right now she has a 12-week wait list to get an MRI. She has no opportunity.
That could be life or death, man.
She has no opportunity to just go somewhere and pay, which she would because of the system that's created. They're worried she could have a tumor in her head creating this scenario. And they're saying, sorry, the way that the system's created, you got to wait 12 weeks to go to get an MRI. What if she dies?
Life or death.
In that time frame.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's so poorly run. It's not about the idea. The idea makes sense. Unfortunately, if you look historically, anytime you hand over the running of a business, of an industry to the government, it is run so poorly because they're not held accountable to the same standards as people who have their skin in the game, as the people who actually know how to run businesses.
Absolutely.
It is a very slippery slope.
Perfectly put, man. And from your perspective in Canada, I'm glad you did that. What we saw with COVID and vaccines was exactly that. When government takes control of medicine, in partnership with Big Pharma, who notoriously is corrupt, and I'm not saying that medicine doesn't have its purpose. There's always a middle ground.
Of course it does.
Medicine's life or death, but doesn't need to be used every time you have a sniffle. Pfizer holds the largest lawsuit in American history. By far, there isn't even a close second. It's something like $14 billion. And you know what it's for, Aaron? 2 things. 3 things, actually. Deceptive marketing practices, doctor payoffs, and adverse event injuries. I mean, you couldn't have a worse trifecta to the driver of the medicine for the pandemic, then controlled by the government. It couldn't be a bigger disaster. Now, I'm going to get to this in a minute, but they're now pulling the same thing with climate change and zero emissions terminology, which will blow you away. Again, you can't see it on the surface, but we'll get to that in a minute. But I want to read something else. So the definition of socialism we read. I want to read the definition of communism right now. And I want you to just tell me, Aaron, the difference. Okay? A system of government in which the state plans and controls the economy and a single, often authoritarian party holds power, claiming to make progress toward a higher social order in which all goods are equally shared by the people. That's not too far from the socialism doorstep, my man.
It's a slippery slope.
So, chipping away, I don't firmly believe we get here in America, I don't put anything past this current administration at this point. It's as ruthless as it gets. I jokingly say, and again, I didn't vote for either of them. Don't get all crazy, but at this point, Biden makes Trump look like Mother Teresa. It's just, but again, the delivery is so different that you can't tell. And
right, his communication doesn't have the negative vibration that Trump did. So it's kind of slipping past everybody right now.
Exactly right. So that's concern. But here's what. So here's a funny exercise I did with somebody recently. They're like, man, that is the best way to look at things. So we as business owners, entrepreneurs, sales professionals, citizens of the U.S., citizens of Canada, we're really talking to North Americans at this point. Do this exercise, right? Because in politics, especially Republican and Democrat, and again, full disclaimer, I hate that there's two parties. I think that there should be no parties and people should run on just what they think and what they can bring to the table and not get pigeonholed into Republican versus Democrat. It just creates too much dissension, as we see. But that's a different story for a different day. But do this exercise. Get out a piece of paper and make a list. Remove the words Democrat, remove the words Biden, remove the words Trump, remove the words DeSantis, remove the words Newsom, like anybody coming up in the future, anybody currently in place, and anybody in the past. Like just strip the names out, strip the personalities out, strip the parties out, and just make a list. And on the left side of the list, we'll write what's currently happening at this point. Right. And on the right side, we'll make a list of the things the opposing party is doing. So you kind of have to say like, OK, the Democrat Party's doing this, the Republican Party is doing this. And it's like a lesser of two evils list. But check this list out. If you made this list, and again, forget Biden, forget that you hate Trump and that you could never imagine yourself voting Republican, but maybe you could imagine yourself voting against it. Here's what we're at. Here's where we're at right now. Inflation through the roof, 40-year high. Lawless open borders. The first executive order that was passed in early 2021 was what's called catch and release, which means we are okay with catching and releasing people into society illegally. There are laws. That doesn't happen in any other country. And we did it during the pandemic, which is really should be impeachable. Failed COVID policy, clear as day. The whole world's getting COVID. They're all triple vaccinated. It's a complete disaster. High energy prices. We've never seen them. Supply chain disruptions. We've never seen them. Weak national security policy. The Afghanistan removal was a complete nightmare. Growing crime at home, out of control homelessness, rapid addiction, widespread mental health problems, and the list goes on and on and on. And that's happening right now. Let's look at the other side of the list. You got people that are anti-abortion. Get it? You and I are pro-choice. They're anti-abortion. They fight for their gun laws and protection. They fight for free speech.
They're
There's my list. Like, so you got, again, the current regime, Democrat list. I know I said don't say Democrat, but you have to like look at who's doing the least amount of damage, who's doing the most amount of damage. But sometimes we get caught up with personalities and too much with who we like you said in the beginning, and we want to vote for the people we like, and we really want to vote against people we hate. Like that was the Trump vices. They hated him so much that their hatred for him was more important than their love for the country. So they would just vote against him. And Biden's doing it right now. He's actually killing some really good Trump policies that took place. Yes, yep. Trump did have some good policies, as much of a clown as he was. They're removing those policies because their hatred for him is bigger than the protectionism of the country. And it is as obvious as can be. And it's scary to watch. But make the list. Just do a big, long list of what are they doing? What are they doing? The list over here to the left is like 4 times the size of the list to the right.
Well, and I want to show the example. Like, I want to show the example that you and I talked about yesterday, right? Unfortunately, the way that in Canada we have a 3-team system. You guys have a 2-team system, right? I wish there was no team systems, but
I agree.
We have a 3-team versus a 2-team, so it gives you a little bit more of diversity. There's actually a 4th, but they never win anything. They're called the Green Party, but. You know, we get so ingrained with history and politics and what our parents did and our family and what our church does and whatever, right? All the different elements that influence your decision. The best example that I could give when you're trying to make a decision based on your history versus your future is the Cleveland Browns, right? So I would take it a completely different era, right? The Cleveland Browns were the laughing stock of the NFL. They had the worst losing record in history, and they recruit a quarterback named Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield comes in, turns the franchise around, gets them to the playoffs in his first year for the first time in I don't know how many years. Gets injured, plays through it, guts through it, doesn't play well in his second year because he's injured, where they should have pulled him and let him heal. But he guts through it for the sake of the team. And at the end of the season, what do? They say, we're going to let you go and bring in a guy that currently has 40 sexual assault charges against him, who's probably not going to play for at least a year. We're going to give up our entire future draft picks to get him, sign him to this massive contract, and thanks for the year and a half, Baker. So what did the fans do? Cleveland Brown fans are some of the most hardcore, loyal fans in the world. For the first time ever, the fans said, you know what? We're going to go cheer for the Carolina Panthers where Baker Mayfield went, because as much as we love our team, the level of stupidity is so high,
daunting
in this situation, that we can no longer support the team that we've been supporting for years and years and years. Right now, what's going on is, in both countries, quite frankly, in Canada and the US, the level of chaos and stupidity is so high that at some point you got to make a logical decision to vote for something that serves you better versus serves your historical precedent.
100%. And like I said before, to piggyback off that, voting against who's doing the least amount of damage has my vote. Who's doing the most amount of damage, I'll vote out of that. I've never let myself get dogmatically attached to a political party. I want to see the issues in the policies. When you vote for people, you lose. You got emotionally attached to the personality, and you lose sight of the issues that we're looking at right here. So here are the issues, the red flags. At least, Aaron, in America, yes, I think some of this in the U.S., but here's what we're seeing that, again, very important point. The reason we're even talking about this, we rarely veer off to anything political in our shows and in our businesses, but this is uncharted territories. In the last 1 to 2 years, since this new administration took office, they took office as a Democrat party. 1 year in, their behavior reflected otherwise. This is a socialist regime. We've seen censorship at a level we've never seen before, silencing productive debate. Now, I have over 1,000 examples of good, quality, well-credentialed doctors and scientists who came to the table in the early days of COVID, pre-vaccine, and said, we have unbelievable 50-year plus track record antiviral protocols that we can avoid hospitalizations with. By the way, I took one of them. I had no issues with COVID. I was done in 2 hours. They silenced and censored us. Now, what a lot of people don't know is they had to do that because if there's any FDA-approved medication that works against COVID, they would never get emergency use authorization approval for the COVID-19 vaccine. So that was a railroad track play in which everybody got silenced. I think that's more communism than socialism, personally, and that is something that just burns me. Changing of the meaning of things, changing language. We did a podcast a few episodes back. You could search it in. If you go to salesvelocitytv.com, I want to say it was early 90s. We're close to 100 episodes right now. When you see any group, organization, specifically political party, changing language and changing the meanings of things, that is the ultimate form of deception. They'll tell you something isn't happening that is happening. They will tell you, crazy example the other day, Aaron. So Joe Biden is giving a speech the other day, and he was recognizing people in the audience. You're going to fall off your chair. He was recognizing people in the audience, and he's this person, and he calls out a lady to thank her for her service, and then he says, "Hey, where are you? I want to give you credit, such and such name. Where are you?" She died 4 months ago. You can't make it up. Now here's the point, though, because obviously there was a dementia issue that we as people, as Americans, need to know about. We are now at risk where we have a president with early onset dementia who's now forgetting what's going on day to day, and it's clear as day. The White House spokesperson actually said that's perfectly acceptable behavior. I mean,
my favorite was the changing of the term recession.
Well, that's where we're going next. So then recession is no longer, that doesn't mean we've contracted for 6 months now. That's different because of this. Or things like Inflation Reduction Act, which are not about inflation, but they're about aggressive, politically motivated climate change stuff. That's happening, and it's happening in broad daylight. Erasing history scares me even more because that's a communist methodology. So what we're seeing right now is we're seeing statues of people like Andrew Jackson and General Lee and some of the people who were, maybe they had slaves during the Civil War, and there's we're going way back in time, and we're removing statues and we're erasing history. Now, erasing history is very dangerous because you don't erase history, you learn from history. There would be no reason to erase history to appease a certain race or a certain minority. That's a virtue signaling, I need more votes play, and it's clear as day, black and white. And I just can't believe people don't see right through it. Open borders. This has never happened in American history. We're at 2 million plus illegal immigrants seized at the border just in 2 years, and we have 2 more years of this. And they will not talk about it. And here's the scariest part of all. Sneaky little law got passed last week where they're trying to now make it legal for illegal immigrants to vote in the election.
Ooh.
So now, and this is fact, verifiable, not reported on CNN or CNBC, by the way, or MSNBC, by the way. So now you say to yourself for a year, why on earth would there be open borders? I mean, even during a pandemic, I mean, we have so many, like, let's shore up our borders. Let's protect it. Again, their hatred for Trump's wall is bigger than their love for protecting the country. That's a personal thing. Okay. But when you see that it's vote driven, administration decides, let's give $10,000 to college kids and forgive some college debt. And I go, okay, where were you 22 months ago? Did this just become a thing because there's an election in 2 months? And by the way, it's one of the reasons we're doing the show today is because we have the most important 2022 midterms ever because of socialism. But where were you in month 3 of your, did the 10K suddenly become way more important now? 2 months before an election? Was it not important in month 2? It seems like you'd want to tackle that one right away for the kids. You'd want to forgive that debt maybe like January or February of 2021. Waited. So timing matters. Right? Timing matters.
Well, yeah, and the extra thing where somebody's brain like mine goes off, and we'll look at that particular example, right? Is we know a lot of people are burdened with student debts. I was burdened with student debts. Right? That's a choice. I chose to go to school because I felt like school would help me evolve in my career. I didn't have money. I didn't come from a wealthy family. I took a student loan. I paid it off. And at the end of the day, it didn't really help me. Okay. So at the end of the day, the school didn't really help me. But nobody put a gun to my head and said, go take this loan. And here's the thing that you have to understand about capitalism, which is what we all are as business owners. We are capitalists.
That's right.
We are people who go to acquire and generate capital. That's what capitalists are. Is we know that when there's no intervention by the government, the system will regulate itself. So if you have a bunch of people taking student loans and the loans are too high and the outcome that they get from the degree that they got the student loan for don't match with what their expected desired outcome would be as far as their career and so on and so forth, they'll stop going to colleges and they'll stop taking student loans, and the colleges and the universities will be forced to redo their system to become better at serving their customers. The system will regulate itself. What we don't do is have the government step in and say, oh, we'll fix the system. We'll just throw a bunch of free money at you, because all that does is set back the capitalist system from resetting itself and evolving and improving. And what is it? It's a sneaky little around the back way to pay for votes.
Oh, yeah.
It's ridiculous.
I'm like, man, you just spent X amount of money to buy votes. That was pretty savvy.
Yeah, and guess what? It wasn't their money. It was our money.
Man. It's exactly right. Exactly right. Let me keep going here. So the things you need to look for: de-emphasis on policing happening. We've never been more ravaged,
insane
than we are. And again, you try to stay unemotional. These are heavy Democrat-run cities. The big three are California, Illinois, and New York. They're completely out of control to the point now where they're backtracking on all of it and now miraculously like, rah, 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 we love the police. The one that's really, really disturbing now, and by the way, Tulsi Gabbard and Joe Rogan they must have spent 20 to 30 minutes just on this one topic, is this gender thing. Just the destruction of biology right now. Gender is independent from sex. A woman can be a man can be a woman. And there's even been some of these really radical liberals on Capitol Hill that have said, yes, a man can have a baby. I mean, it is just beyond belief. The emphasis on the de-emphasis on masculinity is a trend right now. Here in Florida, where Ron DeSantis is in charge, and if you're in Florida, make sure you vote for him again, because one thing he said is we're going to preserve the integrity of women in sports and women in schools. Therefore, if you're a biological man, again, no disrespect, you be you. If you want to be black, blue, green, man, woman, somewhere in the middle, totally up to you. But you don't need to market it to our kids. And your biological boy ain't going in my 8-year-old daughter's bathroom, or I'm coming there and I'm pulling you out by your head. Right? So he passed a law, Aaron, that said biological boys are not going to roll into the girls' room and do their thing. And they're certainly not going to compete in sports. You can't have your cake and eat it too. If you want to go do what you need to do, you'll go be you. I personally, you as well, I respect everybody the same. You want to be a man, be a woman, you want to be somewhere in the middle. That's totally up to you. But their lines you're not competing in sports. And DeSantis has to waste his time dealing with this. He's trying to run a state, and he's now got to go unwind this shit. Right? So that's...
Well, and I look at it in my own house, right? As you know, my daughter's gay. I could care less. When she told me, I was like, and? Because it has zero impact on how much I love her. I mean, that's your choice, right? But we have these debates, and one of the debates we had was around sports. I said, I don't think originally biological male should be able to compete in women's sports, because it's unfair to the women who work their whole life to get to a certain level that then get wiped out by something that they can never become. No amount of work, no amount of focus, no amount of energy will ever allow them the advantage of a biological male coming in.
It just
now,
happened,
do I think that somebody should not be able to have a sex change? I could care less.
It's up to you.
I'm just saying you can't do it if it's going to negatively impact someone else, right? That's not fair to have a male winning swimming competitions, a male winning wrestling competitions. God forbid, what's going to happen next, Andrew? We're going to see a UFC fight, which has happened already, where a woman think about how hard it's been for women to break through into mixed martial arts. Mm-hmm. Ronda Rousey set the tone. Dana White said there will never be a woman in this cage because it makes me feel uncomfortable. She broke through, created the women's division. All these women who wanted to compete finally have a platform. And now we're going to let a male beat the tar out of them in a cage? Do you want to see that happening? No,
nope,
it makes no sense. It's so illogical.
But everything they do, they operate like little kids. They get an idea and they run with it and invalidate everything else. They did it with the vaccines. They did it with no science behind it, and they're doing it now with electric. Everything should be electric now. Everything's in the middle. Like, there should be a really good movement towards electric, but it doesn't eliminate gas. The vaccine should absolutely help the most vulnerable, but pretty much most people don't need to take on that level of risk, which is the highest risk profile medicine in history. Like, everything's like a little kid who gets an idea and runs off and goes all in with no proof of concept. It's so painful to watch. And really, that's irresponsible socialism. Let me give you another one, Aaron. So when the George Floyd thing took place, which obviously everybody agrees it was horrendous, and everybody agrees that there's definitely some racism within the policing in America, and that needs to be reformed.
There needs to be more. There needs to be way more training.
I have to give these way more maintenance,
Aaron,
because the really clueless far left liberals, and there's far right people too that are just as dangerous. I got to give my disclaimers here, right? Because we're in the middle. Is they will somehow make that every police person is a racist, and even better, and this is even Biden, every American is a racist. So America is systematically racist is a word used from the president of the United States. I think it's the greatest insult to the American people potentially in the history of America. It is textbook divide and conquer strategy to get more votes from the minority. We have a lot of black friends, black clients, Latin friends, Latin clients. My wife is from Peru. My wife is Latin. Technically, that makes my kids half Latin, half minority. Appalling. The really intelligent people who are not bought and paid for and dogmatically involved in their parties are like, what a horrible thing to put that blanket statement on all people. I mean, it is just appalling. But it goes on. Like, these are the things you need. It goes on, Aaron. Let me give another one.
Before you do, I want to go back to electric, right? Electric is the same thing as what I was just talking about with regards to student loans and capitalism.
Right.
Right? I don't have solar panels historically on the roofs of my house. Why? Because the cost to buy them and the cost to install them, and then how quickly they were breaking down, didn't make sense to install them. I didn't get a return for 8 years on my money, and by then they were already breaking down. Now, so what happened is nobody bought them, right? Capitalists, nobody bought them. Didn't make sense. It forced the businesses to evolve and get better and improve those elements that I just talked about. Now, you're starting to see the price come down, the installation price come down. You're starting to see that these 20, 25-year warranties. Now, the consumer says, okay, that makes sense. You can't force
exactly
an agenda and an idea in. You let the consumer do their own research, and you let the capitalist system pick the winners and kill the losers. If you have a truck and the truck is used for transporting groceries, tires, whatever in the economy cross country, and it can't drive at a certain speed, and it has to stop too many times, and it can't plug in into enough things, and it doesn't have enough horsepower, whatever, guess what? Your product is not good enough yet. Make it better. And until we do, we'll use the better solution for the business. The whole concept of capitalism is just get better. Just get better. Right? You can't force people to buy something just because you want it to when it's not better. It makes no sense.
Aaron, the guy in California, the governor in California is so far removed from reality. He is cut from the same cloth as Trudeau, and you could argue some of these communist nation leaders. When you declare a statement, we're going to have all electric cars and we're going to remove all gas cars from the road by like 2035 or whatever the number is, you have absolutely no proof of concept. You have no business model. You have no idea what the cost structure looks like. And you have no idea what the stress on the environment really looks like because you're clueless and you're radical.
Why are you making that decision?
Why
are you not letting the capitalist system figure that out for itself?
Guess what he did this week? Socialism, language matters, but watching their behavior matters more than watching their words. He's trying to pass a law that would disbar a medical doctor from being a medical doctor, Aaron, if they share any information that goes against the COVID-19 vaccine. How would you like to be a doctor in California right now, knowing that your communist governor is basically saying you will lose your license if you don't support the C-19 vaccine, which, by the way, doesn't stop transmission, doesn't stop infection, and wears off in 3 months. It's a horror show. So could you imagine being in that California? There won't be a California left because you'll drive the doctors out. You already drove the business owners out due to taxation, regulation, overreach. Now you're going to drive the doctors out? It's scary. And if you let it take hold, it's all socialism. It's on the doorstep of communism. If you let it take hold, it's scary. I'm going to give you a couple more. The commenting of we are not in a recession, you mentioned that before, or inflation is transitory. They've had to walk that back, but they keep doubling down on what isn't working. And the last one I'll mention is flying illegal immigrants into cities and towns around the country with no checks and balances on public health status or criminal records. And then, Aaron, smashing Ron DeSantis because he did the same thing. But guess what? I got news. You see my screen?
Yeah.
This is from Yahoo News. This isn't from Fox. This isn't from some right-wing conspiracy theory news source. This is Yahoo. Biden's been doing it for a whole year. CNN spent 3 full nights on Ron DeSantis's flight of 40 migrants to Martha's Vineyard. And he didn't do it because he wanted to. He did it because the administration won't listen to anybody about the border crisis that they are looking the other way on. But yet he's quietly doing this day in and day out and day in and day out. In fact, there's 73 of these flights just to Florida alone. The hypocrisy in the double standard is on a level that I've never seen in my 49 years on this planet. And it's as scary as they come. And the last thing I'm going to bring up here, two resources, right? I want to be conscious of time here, is they're now pivoting to everything green, climate, zero emissions. I'm all for the environment. I think the biggest problem in the world right now, Aaron, tell me if you agree, is just the plastic situation filling our oceans. My wife and I are like plastic junkies. We don't do anything plastic. We're recyclers. I think the environment is the biggest crisis of all right now. But when politicians get involved in anything environment or climate, and nobody disagrees that the earth is getting warmer and climate's a real issue. Yes, it's true. But when government takes over and goes all in with multi-billion-dollar packages, you better be careful, because guess what's really going on? And we're going to link this in the show notes. One of the brightest investigative journalists that I know of, that I study, and a really talented banker, this is an in, Aaron, for a very aggressive, centralized digital banking program being cloaked as green, for the good, climate change. And it is as disturbing as it gets. And you'll see all the elements of it. We'll lay that out down below. But these are socialist behaviors. Now, what would happen to your business, in your life, if all of a sudden there was a centralized digital surveillance banking-like system overseeing what it is that you do, what you spend on? If you say the wrong things, maybe you can't go somewhere because there could be a social credit situation. This is so much bigger than what it is on the surface. And there's a great book I'm reading right now, which I'm also going to put in the show notes, which is a lot of why I wanted to do this show. It's called Defeating Big Government Socialism. It's written by Newt Gingrich, who happens to be a long-term Republican strategist. But don't get attached to who wrote it, and don't kill the messenger. He's not in the game right now, right? He was in the game years ago, but he writes it from the standpoint of what we're talking about here today. The danger of socialism taking course for any of us, whether you're Democrat or Republican, is way bigger than any party. And he maintains a relatively independent stance. But I'm going to read just the opening. It's just a quick paragraph right here, which I think will bring home everything we talked about here today. He said, in just the opening sleeve, in communities across our country, Americans are debating critical race theory, vaccine mandates, tax increases, rising inflation, online censorship, and a host of other important issues. We have serious decisions to make about the future of our nation. Do we want big government or limited government? Do we want to work hard and keep what we earn, or do we want government to decide how our money is spent? Do we want our children to learn how to think in school, or be told what to think? Do we want to make our decisions about healthcare, or should the federal government dictate our treatments? Should American companies compete on a level playing field, or should Washington decide who wins or loses? This sums up everything today. That's pretty much a statement of how will society look for us as business owners, for us as humans, if we let big government socialism take hold. And it is being sold to us so hard, so aggressively, unprecedented. We've never seen it before. Not under Trump, not under Obama, not under Bush, not under Clinton. We've said this before, only in the last year and a half, which is why we're becoming so vocal about it and using our platform on our show so that you vote against it, because it absolutely will affect you negatively. There will be no winning outcome with socialism. You couldn't name one socialist country right now, Cuba, North Korea, Venezuela, China, Russia, in which any monumental achievement, creation, or innovation came out of. It cripples it all.
Well, and I think the last line of that intro was centralized planning leads to tyranny.
That is right, man.
And I think that
planning leads to tyranny.
And I think that countries like Canada and like the US have always been held on this pedestal for the ability for anyone from around the world to come to the country in the right way and play within the framework and have unlimited opportunity to succeed. And that goes back to my original point where we started, which is it has a strong middle class, the small business is taken care of, it's given the freedom to play within the capitalist system. And the more control and the more things that are dictated to how businesses can operate and how we have to live our lives, the less freedom the business has to operate. And when the businesses break down, folks, you only have to look at history.
That's right.
Everything falls off a cliff after there. And as business owners who are listening to Sales Velocity, you have to use your country-given freedom to vote for whoever is going to protect those things that matter to protect your business.
As Joe Rogan and Aaron Rodgers said on one of the recent podcasts, what the heck's the solution right now? Like, what do we do right now? And as at the time of this recording here in the U.S., Aaron, we're 20 some odd days out from the election that allows this stuff to take hold or not. And he goes, vote Republican. And by the way, Joe Rogan, his favorite president is President Obama. That's his all-time favorite president.
One of my favorites, too.
Yeah, so you're talking about guys that aren't right-wing. Tulsi Gabbard left the party. She's been a decorated Democrat. The most decorated Democrat of all, Aaron, is Robert
Elon Musk left the party.
Elon Musk left the party. The most decorated Democrat of all is Robert F. Kennedy Jr. There is no more decorated liberal Democrat family on the planet Earth than the Kennedy family. Nobody has done more extensive research on medical tyranny and totalitarianism that is now taking place surrounding medicine and COVID and the COVID vaccines than the real Anthony Fauci, the book written by Robert F. Kennedy Jr., which dissects the playbook here, and also a letter to liberals he wrote because he's so frustrated that liberals just won't look past their party to see the things we were talking about here today so that it doesn't take hold and so that we can have a way better future for our kids that isn't basically a surveillance-like state that oversees every damn thing we do, because they want to get involved in literally every damn thing we do at this point. And we can vote against it. And I hope you will in these 2022 elections, because it probably matters more this midterm than any other. And certainly the 2024 election here in the U.S., I've been predicting it, man. I'm going to leave on a prediction. I've been quietly predicting, could it be a DeSantis-Gabbard ticket? I said, how it can't be, because the dream would be we get a Democrat and a Republican on the same ticket. It would solve the problem of the two parties, but you know that it would never happen. And then she leaves the party, and I say to myself, is the door open for DeSantis to grab Tulsi Gabbard and be a 2024 ticket? Because man, oh man, I'd love to get some adults back in the room in 2024 who are fiscally responsible and who value two things more than anything else that matter the most to me. They value freedom, and they value the parent-child relationship and the freedom to choose and not driving a stake down the middle of that relationship like we've seen in many, many other states. And of course, less business regulation, less taxation leads to a much more prosperous future for us as business owners. So Aaron.
And I think I'll leave it with this before we wrap up. You know, as somebody who's not an American, obviously, we look at what happens in America all the time as it's the bellwether of how the rest of the world is going to prosper, because it still is the most powerful nation.
That's right.
And I remember when the Obama election was going on, there was such chaos in the banking systems. All that stuff's coming, by the way. All the same red flags are there in the economy as 2008, 2009. Mm-hmm. And there was a whole bunch of corruption that was happening, and we needed somebody to step in as an adult and say, enough is enough. These things have to change. Let's put these things in place so that, you know, things can't run rampant and people can't be preyed upon. And he came in and he took a it was so important to have somebody like that at that point in time get elected. And when he got elected, I was like, oh my God, thank God for America and thank God for the world. We might be in just as important a time, if not more important, right now.
It'll be a double play. It'll be 2022, where we are right now, to vote against all of this insanity. I mean, this is far left socialism to the point we've never seen before. And then 2024 will be interesting because obviously Biden and Kamala Harris is, by the way, the most hated politician in history. A debate between Kamala Harris and Tulsi Gabbard would be like a Mike Tyson fight in 1998 when he had 30-second knockouts. It would be the most embarrassing debate in the history of debates, in the history of politics. The level of intelligence and class and elegance between the two is on another level. But the level of production and results and actual care for humanity is on another level as well. So we got to make some changes, and I hope our platform is going to do that. I'm going to be pushing pretty hard personally, Aaron, you know me, between now and the end of 2022 to make sure we vote these bums out of office. And I'm going to say it just like it is. Anybody who wants to infringe upon us at the level we're seeing right now needs to go, and they need to get the hell as far away from us, we the people, our businesses, our families, as possible. We'll be back next week with our normally regularly scheduled content. Although, again, the selling of big government socialism, right? It's happening, right? Don't let it be sold to you, but we'll be back with our normal regular content next week. Hope you enjoyed this. It matters. Watch it again. Do my little exercise. Make the list. Who's doing the least amount of damage should be who you vote for or against. I'm Andrew Cass. That's Aaron. We'll see you next time.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. Sales Velocity TV is powered by Pipeline Pro, the ultimate all-in-one sales pipeline management and marketing automation platform that makes all others obsolete. And we can prove it. Take a tour at gopipelinePro.com. See you on the next episode.